Welcome back. This is December 15th, 2015. Our guest in this segment is Norm Ryder. Norm has been on the show a few times before. We've talked about your experiences with Worksafe BC, formerly the Workers' Compensation Board. You were injured at work and have fought a long fight, like many others have to, against an organization that's quite remarkable in what it is. So maybe you can just bring us up to date on what you've been through.
Well, I was really hoping that I'd be able to come in and say, Jack, after 5 years, we finally have a settlement. But unfortunately, no. That actually December 13th, last Sunday, was the 5th anniversary of filing my claim. And about all that has really been accomplished, in a sense, is the claim is more complex and a harder battle to fight now than it was when I made it. Mind you, I've also learned a lot about how Worksafe operates and how many other people are like me that are having their own issues dealing with Worksafe. And I did learn that Worksafe is quite a company. It's a crown corporation that returns a profit of approximately 30% a year to themselves. Their top 20 executives get over $6.5 million. They have,
so that's an average of $300,000 each?
The CEO reports $550,000. Now there may be more, I don't know. And they have they have 600 employees that are making over $100,000 a year. Now that's twice what the maximum of the few workers that do get the maximum. That's twice what an injured worker can get. The medical doctors involved in creating reasons to deny a claim, the one that I dealt with, I gather he gets about $200,000 a year to work part-time. And you can't communicate with Worksafe. They just keep pulling back. I've tried sending emails, I've tried sending letters to them. Well, they take the letter and they file it, and that's it. Which is really one of the techniques that a lot of large companies and organizations are doing, is when you do write a letter into them, that if you're disagreeing with them, they just don't respond. Even if you've got the scientific facts to support the situation, you just hear nothing from them if you disagree with them. You're not allowed to.
Now, if somebody is working construction and they get injured at work and break a leg, I have a feeling that Worksafe is fine with that, for this person to be off work until they're back. But in things like long-term injuries...
Well, I wouldn't even say they're necessarily good there. A friend of mine broke his ankle. It took over a year. Worksafe kept trying to send him to other people to get diagnosed, or he did go to them, but he finally had to go to a specialist to find out how to get a special diagnosis on it. And Worksafe tried to stop him after a year from going to get a special type of CAT scan. So, no, they're not necessarily even good with relatively simple, obvious injuries.
What is Worksafe's job? I mean, what are they, not what they say they're there for, which is, I guess, to protect the worker, but what do you think they're really there for?
I'm a little puzzled, because I know that for small companies, they aren't there to help the small company. Most small employers are equally unhappy with Worksafe. Maybe the big employers are happy that they're protected. I don't know.
Now, they're protected because no matter what happens at work, you cannot go after your employer, right? Worksafe is in the middle between an injured...
Worksafe is a no-fault insurance company, and by no fault they mean you can't go after the employer. All the fault gets shifted back to the worker.
Right. Now, your injury was an electromagnetic radiation injury, and I have a feeling they don't want to admit that can be a problem whatsoever, so they'll just never admit it. Doesn't matter what the science says.
Oh, they will admit it. I haven't stopped. No, actually, I found that they don't even investigate electromagnetic injuries properly. That I know I've got several people that have contacted me, and their injuries are very close to the antenna, where there's a special way you have to measure the radiation in that area, and they don't measure it properly. They don't even acknowledge what they call near-field radiation, where the BC Centre for Disease Control says in the near-field radiation zone, the radiation pattern is very chaotic. You get massive spikes that just take you way over anything even reasonably close to safe.
Take something like cashiers who were forced at work to stand for hours on end, often on concrete floors or very hard floors. This can't be good for people's health, and we know it isn't, and yet Worksafe doesn't step in to help them.
No, and a lot of them may get, shall we say, a long-term disability, but many cashiers aren't on full-time, so they won't even get that. They just get pushed out. They've sold their body to the company. They're
it just
no
seems
use
like
to
that's, I mean, why not act to protect people from these kinds of injuries? What's wrong with the people who run all of our grocery stores and supermarkets? I'm sure the bosses of all those companies are happily seated in the best chairs money can buy, but they force their cashiers to stand hour after hour when it's absolutely unnecessary. And I understand that in Europe that's not the case. In Europe, you know, people are treated at work better. But I'm not sure if you want to talk about what a citizen can do to get better treatment by government and agencies, or?
Well, I'm beginning to think maybe the only way is for citizens to band together and to have actually take a class action against the government, because an individual on their own can't fight the government. And that's really why, shall we say, I've been slowly collecting a number of injured workers together, and I think we're getting close to having a class action that we can actually have. There's a lot of work to organize the class action, but it just may be the only way to communicate with the government and Worksafe, that they've got to follow the normal rules instead of the special laws that Worksafe has to justify not helping people.
So the class action would be along the lines of?
Mainly the way they are confusing the claims and taking wrong pieces of information, putting them in the claim, not investigating the claim, either how the injury occurred or the proper diagnosis of the injured worker.
So Worksafe is kind of judge, jury, and...
Well, that's the frustrating part when you go in, that you have a claims manager who, we'll call him the police officer doing the investigation. Then he switches hats and becomes the prosecutor. Then he switches hats and becomes the judge. And then he becomes the executioner. And then you appeal against the same group of people. That you just can't, they've got the system set up so you're not allowed to win.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're not. Well, I you know, Worksafe is something that, I mean, it operates almost in secret. Nobody ever hears about it, but the people who get involved with it know about it. And really, you know, I think there should be just a public inquiry of what goes on there, and just shine a light on it and try to make it better. I mean, you listen to our politicians on television and radio, they just don't care. Well,
you know, Worksafe, and probably BC Hydro's the same way. I really recommend that people go and get their annual report and read the annual report about the company. Actually, they report a lot of this stuff they're doing. You just have to read it, and 200-300-page annual report's not fun to read. Trust me on that.
Let's move on. You wanted to talk a little bit about just sustainable environments.
Yes, I was thinking after the talks in Paris that we're not going to hit the 2%, certainly not the 1.5% reduction. That's not going to happen. As long as
1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise. Yeah,
that's not going to happen. That as long as we're building more roads, we're going to put more cars on the roads. And I used to build roads. I enjoy building roads. That's great fun. It's just a kid playing with the toys in the sandbox. But we've got to stop building roads. We've got to start looking at other situations that we can't just keep loading the roads up with cars. It's not working. That it's going to take a lot of change and a lot of thought, actually. Coming back to the class actions, I went to the smart meter class action in Vancouver with a person. And
now, that was just filed a few days ago, right?
No, the certification hearing just happened
okay.
last week.
So the judge was going to say, yes, you can be a class action.
That's correct.
Okay.
But what I brought that up for was that she was talking about taking a car over the city centre of Vancouver and all the hassles that was going to be, and pointed out the simplest thing is take the ferry across, you take the bus and the SkyTrain, you're into downtown Vancouver, basically right at the courthouse where the hearing was held.
Right.
And as quicker than you can drive a car, you probably be able to find a parking spot for that. And it costs, I think, $3.75 each way.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Which you can't beat that.
No.
And we took one car off the road.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, we're going to have to take a lot of cars off the road. In terms of the climate change agreement in Paris, I don't know if anybody here is yet ready to actually have to stop driving their car because of that agreement. But that's what we have to do. If we can't do that, then everything else is just a joke, and we're destroying the future.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's just one part of sustainable environment that we've got to start looking at a lot of these things. And if each of us do one thing a day to enhance the sustainable environment, we'd actually get a lot done. We're not going to make a big change, but one change a day for each person will start adding up.
Okay, we're on our way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Norm.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for watching this segment of Citizens Forum. And the next segment is going to be a video of a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Shapira, and talking about something I think you'll find very interesting. Thanks for watching.